uses these stories that make it very, very concrete, why this step is important and how that step has worked for one or another of the characters that he's come across in his travels. So it's a very, very compelling book to listen to for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it depends on which, what appeals to you, because I guess there's a plethora of authors out there that can appeal to you depending on, your personality and your perspective on life. So great.
And much like Dr. Swart, he also recommends being very balanced in your life goals, and having a set of goals in all different areas of life, including your relationships and spirituality and health, as well as the economic areas. But I have a challenge for you, David, and here's something I was struggling with in the book, in that in his area and in many of the books that we're reading, the recommendation is to set a goal and visualize yourself in this new world. How does it feel? What are you going to have? What are you going to feel? What is your life going to be like when you achieve this goal? And then contrast that with other things that we're reading, like Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist nun, where her the theme of the teachings that come across in her readings are: learn to be in the moment that you're in.
Right.
Learn to experience fully experience the emotions of want or need or grief, and things like that. Where in a superficial reading of Canfield's book, you could say, no, always live in that next moment, or that future moment, or that goal is. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, well, again, I think the best thing to do is to try and, if you can, live in the moment. I mean, that's really what the whole mindfulness movement was, to try to make people slow down a little bit and experience that. And it took off in the business communities simply because it's a way not just to get greater productivity from employees, but it was also a way to start to see, what are we doing now? Let's do this well. At this point. My feeling on that is, I think Pema Chodron is probably a little more right than some of these books, because they tend to be, anticipate a greater future and things like that. But sometimes, the times that you're living in rise to the occasion in this moment. Live in this moment. If it's up or it's down, or it's going backwards or going forwards, then you start to see yourself as this, they would call it the self, I guess, and you're not attached to the outcomes necessarily. So I got it today and I don't have it tomorrow, and but I'll always be taken care of it. And I've always liked the Taoist four principles, and you could apply them. They're also in all the monotheistic religions: Christianity, Judaism, and Buddhism. I mean, Hinduism, and also in Islam. Is the same idea, is that there's basically four things that really come together. You'll always have enough. You'll never be alone. You can always let go, and dying is returning home. And those things, they, as simple as they seem, and say, well, everybody can get that, how hard those are to sort of enact, to really believe in some ways, like Pema Chodron, to enjoy this moment. That, we're always taught, well, if I'm alone, and there's a lot of people in the fear right now, I'm alone, and I'm not, I'm not with my friends, and I can't go out. I can see them maybe and call them and things like that. But, and then, I may not have enough, in a world where there's, feeling of scarcity, or I'm not going to have, as people run off and get toilet paper and, in the stores and trying to stock up. And it creates this sort of, not just an avarice, but also a sense of, I'm not going to have enough, that I'll be left high and dry, and the vulnerability of that whole thing. And then certainly, who wants to let go when we're told, hang on, and finally, we want to hang on so much that we're afraid of death. And I think there's some of the spiritual teachers, Pema Chodron, would probably say, accept this as it comes, and it's been a glorious life, no matter what it is. Now, certainly no one is saying, well, I'm just going to go out there and run in front of cars. No, I mean, that's magical thinking. And, if a car hits you, that's probably not going to be a good way for you. But you know, I think we're that sense of spirituality, that impermanence of who we are, can help you to be a little better than sort of the entrepreneur who just found out that they weren't going to get the funding because, you know, the funding source dried up, or the environment's become risk adverse, and now they just start to say, it was, you know, you have to sort of go against your own nature in some sense. And then living right in the now, does it open up? And some people say it opens up that way, and other people say, no, I got to push on. I've got the greatest idea in the world. And, you know, I guess it works in multiple ways.
Yeah. So where are you going to put your roots, into what ground, you know, and
Right.
it's going to be in a ground where you're doing, you know, doing good, or is it in a ground where, you know, money over all other objectives? You make a different decision. And I think that both of the authors that we talked to would encourage you to think about that, and to be clear on where you are in your own mind and your own heart about that. And
Yeah, I think there's a moral component to all that we don't, you know, that doesn't get written up a lot. But, you know, how in this modern day and age, how does an organization, how does business do well? I mean, I know is the movement, you know, to be more socially minded and things like that. And there's a lot of talk about that. But in practice, sometimes it does fall back to, well, hey, we've got to make it the money and make things happen. And sometimes, for example, the other day I was dealing with a woman who, very successful executive, but their company has to go through, a little downsizing, and she was trying to tell the bigger leaders up above that it was most important to, you know, hang on. We've spent 3 years trying to acquire this talent, and we need to hold on to this talent. And their thing was, no, we got to get rid of it. And so she wouldn't get rid of them, so they got rid of her. But they gave her a severance package. But the sadness is, but what was the bottom line? You could talk all this, we care about people, but in the end, you know, it becomes, I get it, there's a financial thing, but that became your thing, not holding on to people, at least for a certain period of time. But now you're going to, you know, how can your organization is going to have to go out and reacquire new talent? And that's going to be a huge cost to you. And, you know, are you going to find the talented people who made this team run and this organization run really effectively before the little downturn that we've hit? And, you know, now you've sort of sacrificed a little bit of your own moral value, because it came down to, in the end, well, we got to make choices. And I know those are hard choices, easy to stand on the outside, but I'm thinking to myself, well, why wouldn't you try to hold on to the talent as long as you can? Because, you know, these people will be not only grateful, but they'll give you more effort, you know. Anyway.
It's kind of like compliance or commitment, you know, they're compliant till you turn your back, or else you know that they have your back, and will make that same decision you would in the meantime.
Yes.
I think in our profession, in our organization development community, really, I think that's one of the things that defines us, is that is the use of that community and use of that humanistic value in order to achieve the goals of the organization. So it's not opposed to, but it's a way of achieving those goals. And so I'm hoping that all of you in our community make use of the time that we've spent taking a look at these books. We'd love to hear what you have to say about our conversation here. What would you like to add? What are you reading? And look forward to your comments. And we hope to see you soon, whether that's on a Zoom meeting for one of our programs, or hopefully by the end of the year, we'll get a chance to meet you all in person. Hope you're having a great day. Please, everybody, be safe.
Thanks for listening in.